Chapter 15. I do not want your excuses, Squall. I want results. Max's voice echoed across the rubble. Perched atop a pile of rubbish that must have been 20 or 30 feet high, the Red Fox had a good vantage point to watch a squad of his men picking through the ruins of Julu for the 30th time. To his right stood a surveyor, pointing his instruments to measure the landscape. I know, sir, but they kept moving it. It wasn't my fault, said the black ferret standing in front of him. Max rolled his eyes and allowed them to wander across the ruined landscape as the ferret yammered on with a boring and pointless excuse. It was all the same to him. At the end of the day, all his excuses meant he had failed. Max pulled his yellow hard hat off his head and smoothed down his red hair. I don't know if I can handle this incompetence anymore, he said, causing Squall to stop talking. How hard could it be to pick it up? I practically gift-wrapped it. He took to massaging the bridge of his nose. Sir, Squall fiddled with the tail of his orange construction shirt. Everyone, even Max, had to wear the vest and hard hat in these ruins. I can do the job, if you give me another chance. Max glared at Squall. Another chance? You've had 3 weeks of chances, and you know what? Get out of my sight. I can't handle you right now. Squall whimpered, but turned to scramble down the rubble pile. Max blew a breath out of its mouth. Squall had been the latest recruit to his board of advisors, a fancy term referring to those people closest to him in his company. They were the only ones who knew he was looking for something here in Julu, and most of them didn't know what they were actually looking for. But Squall knew. He knew, but after his failure, Max couldn't trust him again. He certainly couldn't trust him to keep it secret. This is so annoying. Max drew his gun from his jacket holster, aimed it at Squall's retreating form, and pulled the trigger. A white laser streaked through the air and struck Squall in the back of his head. He dropped where he stood. Max exhaled a loud breath while cracking his neck. Yeah, that made me feel better. Hey, Jordan, Janae! He looked to a leopard and a black panther standing about halfway down the rubble. He beckoned to them as they turned. Sup, boss? Janae got to Max first. She walked with a smooth, almost oily motion that reminded Max of a snake. Jordan stopped to examine Squall's body before joining Max. What's happening? I'm going to have to write a nice obituary for Squall. Max pointed at the body with his chin. Couldn't retrieve the package, huh? Jordan sniffed. Janae chuckled. You should have sent Jordan or me. Max ignored her. I'm thinking about something like, he was a good worker, an invaluable member of the team, yada yada, blah blah, but his most tragic death was caused by a... He motioned to Janae to fill in the blanks. Where'd you get him? Back of the head. Max tapped the spot on his own head. Jordan squinted at Squall's body. No blood there. The gun was set pretty high. Max sniffed, cauterized the wound. Janae scanned the rubble. There's a lot of unstable debris that could... She wrapped her knuckles on her head, conked him on the head. Ah, perfect. Max clapped his hands together. Another unfortunate victim of Julu. And people will go for that? Jordan asked. There's a laser burn in the back of his head. Janae shrugged. As long as we don't give him any reason to run an autopsy, we can hide the burn. Great. Max pointed his clasped hands at her. Take care of it for me? Will do, boss. Janae winked at him as she descended the rubble. Oh, and Janae, make sure all our permits are in order, Max called after her. I want us to be the only ones doing restorations on this town. Janae paused halfway down the rubble. Is the government going to be okay with it? As long as the paperwork is in order and I'm footing the bill, no one will care, Max shouted. So make sure it's done right. Yeah, boss. Janae pointed to the air as she descended the rubble towards Squall. What a mess. Max surveyed the damage once again. Everything for miles around had been flattened. Jordan shook his head. What happened here? No idea. Max massaged the bridge of his nose again. As the founder and CEO of the GFG Corporation, Max felt the pressure of the board of directors bearing down on him. Julu represented a significant investment on his part, and it had crumbled in one night. Terrence Claiborne must be having a field day. How am I going to recover from this? We could start by actually clearing the rubble. Not yet. Max took a breath as he surveyed his team working. Tess and her team are making one more pass. What are you searching for? A disc and Squall's missing package. Which is? Doesn't matter. Doesn't look like it's here anymore. Max growled in his throat. Squall wasn't already dead, I'd kill him. All this is doing nothing for our timeline. You're right. Max chewed on the inside of his cheek for a moment. Once Tess's team has finished this pass, get ready to clear the rubble. Get us back on schedule. Will do. Jordan's ears pricked as the sound of sliding stones reached Max's ears. Max turned. A gray vixen clambered up the pile of rubble towards them. As she scaled the top, her foot slipped on the loose stones. Max caught her before her face smacked in the dirt. Oh, thank you. The vixen looked up at him with the biggest green eyes Max had ever seen. Max set her on her feet as he let his eyes rove over her form, ears to tail. He had never seen a vixen with gray fur in real life. Pictures of them, sure, but all the foxes he knew had red fur like his. And her chin-length hair was so black it almost looked blue. She wore a dress that did nothing for her shape, a jacket belonging to some food delivery place, and flat shoes not meant for walking very far. He could imagine the blisters she must have had on her toes. But all told, not a bad-looking girl, if he cared about that sort of thing, which he didn't. Who are you? Max turned his eyes away from the vixen. She stood straight. My name's Celeste. Uh-huh. Max didn't spare another glass. And what are you doing here? Forget it. I don't need to know. Max waved her off. It's not safe here. Need a hard hat and safety vest to be in this area. I will leave, but can you help me? Celeste spun in a circle. I think I'm lost. I'll say you are. But wait. Max turned to her. How'd you get past the roadblock I set up around the whole town? Celeste twirled her fingers in her hair. It's a long story. But it involves hitchhiking, batting my eyes, and getting some poor sap to do me a favor. I sure hope that angry bat that rushed at him wasn't his wife. She gave Max a sly sort of smile. Max couldn't help the snicker that escaped him. It's kind of funny. I thought so too. Celeste held her hands behind her back. What are you looking for then? The GFG Corporation's office. One's supposed to be in Jaloo, but this can't be the right place. The GFG Corporation? Max pointed to a pile of concrete toward the east. It's right around there. Huh? Look around, girl. The whole place is destroyed. Everything. My offices, my employees, all gone. This was supposed to be my town. Whoever did this is going to pay. But this can't be Jaloo. Celeste seemed to shrink as she looked over the rubble. I have to get to the GFG. I have to. What do you want with them? Looking for a job? Oh, no, sir. Celeste turned her back to him and turned back with a piece of paper in her hands. I want to join the Freedom Project. Max took the paper. It was one of the ads he had run in a magazine. He lifted a scrutinizing eye to her. You're a slave? Yes, sir. Max sighed. Sorry, but I think we're going to have to suspend the initiative for a while. But you can't... Do you see this? Max opened his arms to indicate the rubble all around him. This represents millions of dollars my company just lost, and millions, possibly billions, we're going to need to restore and repair this place. Something has to give. But I can't go back to Terrence. Celeste clutched the collar of her dress. He'll kill me for running away, or something worse. Terrence. Max's ear shot up. Terrence Claiborne? The collector? Celeste nodded. You're his? Celeste pressed her lips together and nodded. And you escaped to come here? Celeste nodded. Max stroked his chin. Terrence Claiborne had been a thorn in his side ever since he had started the Freedom Project. Using his money and influence to back Max's competitors and attempting to block the GFG from lucrative contracts, undercutting his business, sending corporate spies or people to steal from him. To get even with Terrence Claiborne. A smile slipped onto his face. This chance was too good to pass up. Tell me, Celeste, what did you do for Terrence? I worked in the house, cooked, cleaned, things like that. Celeste took to unconsciously stroking the fur in her arm. But what he really used before was showing off. I was the pride of his collection. Of course, a gray-furred fox, very rare. Celeste's ears angled backward. I know. Max stroked his chin as he studied her. This could work for me. You've got a pretty face. Oh, Celeste smiled at him as color came to her cheeks. Thank you. I was stating a fact. Max held up her hand. I didn't mean for it to be construed as romantic interest in any way. Oh, okay. Celeste cocked her head. But what's construed mean? Forget it. Max! Tess, a brown weasel, jumped up and down at him from her spot in front of her half-ruined wall. We found something! Come on, Celeste. Stay with me until we figure out what to do with you. Max took a step before snapping his fingers. Oh, you're gonna need a hard hat. He plopped his hat on her head before sliding down the rubble pile. What'd you find? This. Tess opened her hand. In it was a clump of gray fur. Max picked it up. It shimmered as he rolled it between his fingers. A grin spread across his face. I don't believe it. The legends are true. Sure looks like it. Max gripped the fur in his fist. Please tell me you have some good news about what happened. I've got better than good news. Tess used the tablet in her hands to point. We found tracks headed to the road and evidence of a vehicle leaving. So she is alive. Max put a hand to his head. What a relief. Any clue where she went? That's where my good news ends, I'm afraid. Tess shrugged. Anyone could have picked her up. She might even be a slave by now. If she is, she'll be fairly easy to find. I'll run a search with the estate office. Tess tapped it into her tablet. What about the disc? Tess slapped a black, plastic, rectangular disc in his hand. It was in the bank vault, or remains of it, like our contact said. I hope whatever destroyed Jalou didn't harm it. Max pulled a portable holodisc player from his pants pocket. Don't bother. I already checked it. Most of the data is corrupted. It's no good to us anymore. Blast! Max crushed the disc in his bare hands. Celeste appeared beside him, panting. What? A steep hill. Who's this? Tess studied Celeste up and down. Her name's Celeste. Max let the holodisc pieces fall from his hand. Nice to meet you, Celeste. Tess held out her hands for Celeste to shake. Celeste stared at it for a moment. With a small smile, she took Tess's hand. Hi. She wants to be a part of the Freedom Project. Max dusted off his hands. Tess inhaled a breath through clenched teeth. I don't know, Max. With all this going on, do you think the company will fund it? I'll pay it for myself if I had to. She says she's Clarence Taborn's pride. If it's true, she's worth her weight in gold. Celeste snorted through her nose with her mouth pinched, though she said nothing else. Should be easy to check. Tess tapped on her tablet and swiped the screen a few times. Looks like you're right, Max. She was on the cover of his magazine 2 months ago. She hit the button, and a holographic display of Collector's Monthly magazine appeared in the air. Celeste was on the cover, her fur brushed to a shine, and her hair smooth in place. Celeste gasped. So that's why he had me take all those pictures. She is very photogenic. Max examined the photo. Photogenic? Celeste looked from Max to Tess. Is that good? Tess smiled at her. It's very good. It means you take nice pictures, and it's true. Look at these. You look lovely. Celeste put a hand to her heart. Thank you. But you've got to be expensive. If you're Terrence's pride, I can't see you setting your list price very low. Tess tapped the button and the picture disappeared. Are you sure you want to use your own money to do this, Max? The money isn't a problem for me. Max stroked his chin. But getting access to her papers will be next to impossible. I have my papers. Celeste turned her back on him to reveal crumpled papers when she turned back. You came prepared for everything. Max smoothed them out to examine them. He inhaled a breath through clenched teeth. 650,000. Tess whistled. Steep. Worth it, though. Max grinned. She'll be the new face of the Freedom Project. Can you imagine what will happen when everyone sees that even the pride of Terrence's collection can be freed by us? You mean besides Terrence blowing his stack? Tess winked at Celeste. It's worth it, in and of itself. But imagine all the free publicity we'll get. Anti-slavery groups will be throwing money at us. Max rubbed his hands together. And if I can play this right, I can get other companies to sponsor it. It'll be a gold mine. It will subsidize the rebuilding of Jalou. The company won't lose another dime. Considering everything goes according to plan, Tess said. Everything goes according to my plans eventually, Tess. Max straightened his jacket. Take Celeste down to the estate office right away. Once she's taken care of, I'll have our PR girl set her up with the photographers and marketers to get a new Freedom Project campaign running. On my way. Tess turned Celeste around. Come on, you're going to love working for us. Her voice faded into the distance. Max turned as Tess and Celeste walked away. So far, everything had turned out okay today. He had managed to turn everything around. Perhaps he hadn't needed to kill Squall. He paused to mull it over. Actually, yeah, he did.